Iran hints at a nuclear test. Planned blast warning near Isfahan raises fresh alarm. Mojtaba taunts Trump with tests as Iran signals activity near a bombed nuclear site. A day after activity at Isfahan, Iran announces a limited-hour window for a planned explosion. Mojtaba's next war move revealed as IRGC announces a mysterious blast near Isfahan. Iranian authorities warned that controlled explosions could be heard across parts of Isfahan on August 20th, according to reports. The provincial IRGC office said the planned blasts were expected to take place between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. local time, creating a 5-hour window for the activity. The announced 5-hour window covered areas including Soffeh, Baharestan, and several surrounding districts across Isfahan. Authorities described the explosions as controlled activity, but did not provide further details about what would be detonated or why the blasts were necessary. The announcement comes as Isfahan remains under intense scrutiny because of its strategic nuclear-related facilities and military infrastructure. However, the IRGC did not confirm any nuclear activity and did not link the planned explosions to Iran's nuclear program. Earlier, satellite imagery reportedly showed fresh vehicle activity around Iran's Isfahan nuclear complex, adding to the growing attention surrounding the site. New satellite imagery from mid-July and early August showed several vehicles moving around the sensitive nuclear site. The Institute for Science and International Security reported the alleged vehicle activity after examining the satellite imagery. The satellite images showed several container trucks operating at different locations inside Iran's key Isfahan nuclear complex. The vehicles appeared to be moving through multiple areas of the nuclear site, according to the imagery reviewed by the Institute. The Institute said it remained unclear what the trucks were carrying or what activities they were conducting at the nuclear facility. The reported activity came as Iran's nuclear sites remained under close international scrutiny following US and Israeli strikes. Isfahan was among the Iranian nuclear facilities targeted by the United States during its June airstrikes on Iran. Amid this, an IRGC advisor also mocked Trump on camera, ridiculing US military power in a separate public appearance.
Well, the current U.S. President, Donald Trump, has specific characteristics, including being very short-sighted, meaning he exhibits childlike behavior. There is no foresight in his statements. When he speaks, he doesn't even think about. For example, 24 hours later, a major international leader should see the depth of his words, even 50 or 100 years ahead, knowing that history records them. However, his characteristic is that he cannot even predict tomorrow, nor say something measured and forward-looking. His words have no foundation or rules. His statements have destroyed American power. We don't rely on his words at all. I can rely on my driver's words way more than his, because he will come exactly at the time he promised. But he keeps saying things that are proven void by the next day. Don't rely on his words. I believe that the media should also not pay so much attention to the words of the current President of the United States, because he speaks nonsense. Every war has a goal, and that goal is stated by the one who started it. That what am I going to do? Victory can only be achieved, and success can only be claimed, when the one who set that goal has actually reached it. The United States government announced two main goals in this war: to overthrow the Iranian government and to partition Iran. Those were their primary objectives. They failed right from the start. They had a very short-sighted vision, based on the characteristics I mentioned earlier. They thought that within 3 or 4 days, for instance, they could overthrow the Iranian government or partition Iran. Clearly, it was a highly illusory notion. Not only were they unsuccessful, but after those two goals failed, their war became devoid of strategy, meaning they had no other plan. From the beginning, they drew a plan to overthrow and partition. They had no other plan. When those two goals failed, a strategiless war began, where every few days, in meetings held at the White House and within their defense system, they would exchange some words, make a new decision, and announce it. They announced at least 12 decisions. For example, they said, "We will take Karg Island," and began very intense bombing, hundreds of bombs, very heavy bombardments on a small island, but they couldn't even land a single person there. They said, "We will occupy Iran's islands." They couldn't. "We want to advance into Iranian soil." They couldn't. "We will open the Strait of Hormuz. We will conduct a liberation operation." They brought their carriers with great noise and fanfare, and the U.S. president issued a statement. They could do nothing. Now, where is it? The Strait of Hormuz is still there. Let's see if the U.S. can bring one person into the Strait of Hormuz and shows us. Given there are so many media outlets in the world, let's see if they can show one American soldier in the Strait of Hormuz. Meaning, out of the 12 goals they announced, the list of which is clear, where they said something new every 5 or 6 days, they failed in all of them. They couldn't establish themselves. Therefore, they cannot talk about success at all. America absolutely cannot say a word about any success. One of their goals, for example, was to crush Iran's nuclear energy infrastructure, but they couldn't. The Strait of Hormuz will never lose its importance. This is a production site for oil and gas, meaning the Gulf itself is a production site for oil and gas. Whatever happens here, regardless of where they want to take it, oil, it is produced here, meaning it is under control. This is a production site. Oil wells cannot be moved elsewhere. At most, they load it onto ships or use pipelines to take it somewhere else. Well, that pipeline is again under control, meaning it is susceptible to damage. It is not as if they can just solve this issue. First of all, from an industrial and civil engineering perspective, it takes years for such a task to be completed. Furthermore, many products are not even transferable. If gas is to be transferred, it changes phase, and then, to maintain the composition, they would need to perform heavy and expensive operations at the destination point to return the gas to its original form. It is not as if they can just go directly from here to there. This place will never lose its significance. If they want to find alternative routes to transport oil and such, it takes many years and incurs very heavy costs. The work is expensive, and ultimately, it still does not diminish the importance of this location. We must achieve a state of deterrence so that if anyone attacks Iran, retreats, and then, after being hit and failing, returns to reorganize only to come back 6 months later. This is not a good outcome for us. Our security must be maintained. Whether this is secured through diplomacy or through war, we must ensure it. The principle is that diplomacy and war themselves are not the essence. They are tools, and both are methods. Our deterrence should be reinstated. How does that happen? It must be clear that violating Iran comes with a cost. The United States paid this cost through diplomacy, meaning if they comply with the demands that General Rizai mentioned, pay damages through diplomacy, and accept the price they must pay, then it is not as if they can return and try again. This can revive our deterrence. If they do not do this, then they must certainly be dealt with. It must reach a point where the cost is so heavy for them that no one dares to attack Iran again. If we do not reach deterrence, it will be a great loss for us in trying to end the war, whether by diplomacy or by war. For us, the tools are not the essence. The goal is the essence, and the goal is returning to Iran's deterrence. Everyone saw that when the Ba'athist regime attacked Iran, we continued the war for 8 years to reach that point. We could have, for example, when we reached the international borders or certain points, compromised and settled, but we had not reached deterrence. The enemy would have re-equipped themselves and attacked us again. This was shown even at the end of the war with Operation Mersad. Despite the defeats they suffered during the 8 years of war, as soon as they felt that we had become weak, they launched another major attack, which again failed.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.